Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Erica Heald. I'm your content chat host. And today we're going to be talking about something really fun, interesting, and timely, very timely, which is Bluesky. And I have a guest with me today who is someone that is probably like the most knowledgeable so far that I've seen on LinkedIn about using Bluesky for business as opposed to just using it for sharing super adorable dog and cat photos, such as what I've been doing. Amanda, welcome to Content Chat.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be on.
For folks who don't know you, could you take a minute to introduce yourself and share who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. I'm Amanda Changuris. I'm a VP of social media with more than 15 years of professional experience in social media, which is wild to say, but it's true. I'm currently working with Spectrum Science, and that's a group 100% focused on supporting clients in the health and life sciences industry. So that might give you a little peek into why I've been so interested in getting to know Bluesky as a platform, because a lot of our clients are really interested in exploring the possibility of setting up shop there.
Fantastic. So I think that gives us just a really good starting place. So what brought you to Bluesky, and how long have you been there, and how have you kind of started to find your way? Because everybody, there's a new social platform born every minute. It feels like it. But maybe you could just share a little bit about what makes Bluesky tick and why this is a place that you've decided to actually spend some time.
Yeah, I think what really makes Bluesky different from other kind of would-be Twitter or X challengers is that it feels like a time machine that takes you back to Twitter circa 2010. So that was just, to me, the heyday of what Twitter was. Simple
Agree.
and clean interface, chronological timeline, the conversations were there. If there was, a major event, a news event, and I mean, earthquake Twitter was always, like immediately everybody was sharing, hey, did you feel that? Did you hear that? Like that sort of thing.
Guilty.
Yeah. And so, but when something happened, you went to Twitter to experience it live with other people.
Yeah.
And so that's really the vibe that I'm enjoying. And of course, I'm using it personally first because, since the dawn of social media, that's been sort of the way to get into it is use it yourself, see what's working, see what's not, play around on your personal account. So then you can
100%.
apply it at work once you've, stepped in a few potholes and learned the norms.
And Amanda, I got to tell you, that is one of my pet peeves when you end up in a situation where the person owning the social accounts doesn't use social at all or doesn't use the
Mhm.
platform that they own. I'm like, the time for experimentation is not on the brand account. The time for experimentation is on your own. You need to learn how to
Right.
do these things yourself.
Yeah, set up a burner. It's okay. You can just mess around with it and, follow a whole bunch of random people and just see what happens, but have a plan when you get to
Exactly.
the
Exactly.
business side. Yeah.
Um, So I think what's interesting to me is while they have, slightly different names, there are kind of like some features that really do take me back to the way I used Twitter in the past, such as how you can make your own lists. So that way, if you want to be able to see all of your content marketing folks, like I have a list of content chat guests, and which you will be added to after this conversation today. Things like that kind of help you when you have a specific thing that you want to like go and talk about or people you want to engage with. They
Mhm.
have that capabilities which we got to know and love in Twitter. But I'm wondering, one of the things I think is new, because people are always like, oh, it's just a Twitter clone, but one of the
Right.
things that's new is the idea of starter packs. So I was wondering, have you had any fun experimenting with those?
Absolutely. On the personal side, I was included in a starter pack that was related to the hockey team that I follow, the Washington Capitals, and it was fantastic. Like as soon I kept seeing like a bunch of follows come in, and I could tell that there was, everybody was a Capitals fan, and I was like, okay, hold on, there's something going on here, and I was clicking around and trying to kind of deduce what had happened, and I found the starter pack, and I I was really excited to see that in action. And on the work side of things, I work with a bunch of clients that are developing products in the cardiovascular space. So there's Cardio Sky, for example, a starter pack of all people who are interested in cardiovascular health. Different aspects of it. Everybody's studying something different, but that's a big place to start. And then you can follow the whole starter pack if you want, or go selectively down that list and say, this person's interested in lipids. This is a, major journal that's publishing on a variety of topics, but I want to hear from them, and kind of build your own, choose your own adventure that way. So yeah, starter packs are a lot of fun, especially because I mean, nobody wants to start at zero again with a social media platform. I know Threads got sort of a leg up on Bluesky early on, because you at least started with, or you had the option to start with bringing your followers over, or bringing the people you were following over, rather, from Instagram. So that level of ease is an attractive element.
And I think it's also one of the things that is a little different from some of the other platforms like Mastodon and, oh gosh, there's so many of them that I've joined in the past because people said, just try it out and let's see.
Right.
And I know for me, a lot of them, the problem was I couldn't find any of the people that I had followed other places whose content I was really interested in, who I wanted to have conversations with, and no one
Mhm.
could find me either. So,
Right.
if you don't have those conversations, you're not going to keep logging back in.
Exactly. Absolutely. And just another piece that I think is really interesting, that I've used myself on Blue Sky, is they have a label function that I think is really interesting. And I've used it personally because I on the personal side, I'm using Blue Sky. I'm putting out posts about the hockey game I'm watching, the football game I'm watching. It's definitely a leisure time activity for me, and I'm trying to, enjoy, a sporting event primarily. So there, I found a labeler that will label any political content, for example. And so I can choose, do if I want to see it or not. If
Yeah.
political content comes up in my feed, and this is just a specific labeler that I found, there are other types of labelers that users have developed, and I can say, put that behind a label, and then I can click on it if I'm interested in reading it, or I can kind of keep my peace, keep my tunnel vision a little bit. I'm a former journalist. I know about the importance of staying informed and engaged in everything, things in all of society. But sometimes you just want to focus a bit on the joy of a hockey game, and that can be really helpful.
Now I'm totally going to look into that because I personally, one of my pet peeves is, as somebody with a wheat allergy who has a food blog that's a gluten-free food blog and who reads lots of publications, I
Hmm.
actually don't want to see pictures of a bunch of things I can't eat.
Yeah, all the bread posts.
All the
Yeah,
bread. Yeah, all the bread, all the cakes that aren't gluten-free. So
yeah,
I'm gonna look into figuring out how I can actually create my own labeler that will label content as being, full of wheat. So
yeah.
that way I don't have to be hangry.
No, I
'Cause
love that. That's a
yeah,
wonderful use case. Yeah, and if it doesn't exist, it may. Somebody may have created it. If it doesn't, because Blue Sky is built on a platform that we can all kind of dig into, you can develop one, and
yeah.
that's a pretty cool aspect of it.
Wow, I totally love that. It's
Yeah.
completely not a business use case, but
No,
definitely one of
yeah.
those nice to think about use cases.
That works.
So in addition to your hockey sky,
Yeah.
um, what have you been seeing some of the kind of like early adopters from a business standpoint? I know your organization, you're working with folks in science and healthcare. How have those kinds of both, individual thought leaders and organizations at large, how have they been kind of making their way on Blue Sky and finding an audience and really building that community?
Yeah, we've been recommending to our clients, or most of our clients, that they might want to grab their handle, that kind of thing, and then just keep an eye on the key opinion leaders they want to reach and see, how if it's getting sticky enough for that group. So we know that Blue Sky has seen a surge in users since November of last year. They're up to about 27 million users, still very small compared to a lot of the other platforms that are out there, but especially within like the healthcare, biopharma, research communities, we're definitely seeing uptake. And so, as always, if your audience is there, you should at least think about being there too. And there's a really nice parallel, because the platforms are so closely related, that if you're creating content that you're intending to publish on X right now, and a lot of organizations are still there because the audience is still there,
Mhm.
you can conceivably cross post to a platform like Blue Sky. You don't have to develop something brand new or change the aspect ratio on a photo, that sort of thing, to at least dabble in that area. So we have recommended, kind of selectively, depending on what
Yeah.
our clients are trying to do, to go ahead and start some of that crossover, to then see if that audience is staying with Blue Sky and using it actively. We've had some cases where, especially within the science and research communities, where users that are very active or have been very active over on X have left that platform and said, "I'm moving to Blue Sky. I won't be over here anymore." And so, if they're driving the conversation that you want to be a part of as a brand, then you've got to at least consider, is that person enough of a key opinion leader that should inspire you to move as well? Maybe, maybe not. That's going to absolutely be a judgment call, and that's why we all have jobs, to make those judgment calls and help our our clients and businesses make those decisions. Um, but we're seeing, especially major publications like key journals, the Journal of the American Medical Association, NEJM, American Heart Association, all of those journals are, consistently publishing content that they've likely created for X. I think they're cross-posting for the most part onto Blue Sky. And, that's an easy way to at least, stick your toe in the water and see if the engagement follows.
And it's such a great way to be benchmarking apples to apples, because if you are
Mhm.
in that situation, I think frequently, you'll start a new platform, but it'll be so vastly different. Like you can't compare, you can't post the same content on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and X
Mhm.
and have it perform the same. It's going to,
Yeah.
whatever it is going to have to be tailored for one of those platforms to perform and get engagement at all. So at
Mhm.
least with if you are used to having engagement and posting content on X, at least that gives you an idea of some benchmarks for how you would expect the content to perform.
Mhm.
Um,
Right, and
right.
how your followership might start rolling in over time. If you've built a followership on X, you know that it takes a while, especially if you don't have, dedicated ad dollars to put behind, just follower growth. Um, so, you've at least got an idea of what you should expect.
I know that one of the things too that people kind of um, maybe gives them a little sense of pause is we get really used to how on these established big platforms we can use social media schedulers, so that way we don't actually have to be social on
Right.
these channels and just turn them into media broadcasting channels. But I think that that is one of the things that is always fun and interesting about any new platform. So what have you seen is a little bit different because of that on Blue Sky? Like, how are people kind of initially engaging that might be a little bit different?
Yeah, I think not having a scheduler is probably my favorite phase of a platform. I love a shortcut. I love something that's easy. Don't get me wrong, but I think there's more potential for that interaction that makes social social. I do support, you know, pharmaceutical companies, for example, that don't have the opportunity to be quite as social as many other brands because, everything's got to go through, many layers of review before it goes out the door.
And
But
have those legal and compliance disclosures with everything they say.
everything. So yeah, I'm in an industry. I'm supporting an industry that's that has a lot of red tape involved in it. I've spent my whole career in those kinds of industries and, just learned to respect the guardrails. But I still love the opportunity for, even if it's a conversation that happens around something that the brand has posted, to just be part of that as much as we can. Maybe there's a like involved or something like that to just show that we're paying attention. So, I haven't seen a lot of that currently on Bluesky. We're not driving a lot of content right now out the door. We're getting clients sort of warmed up at this point. But I hope to have, more stories to tell soon.
Love it. So, when you are advising clients either on an individual basis or organization-wide basis to get in there and to save those handles, which I totally always agree is the best first thing, what do you tell them is like the best way to start understanding what their audience looks like? Do you suggest that they do keyword searches, or that they're looking for high profile thought leaders and looking at their followers? Like, what's the best way for people to kind of get their feet wet and start keeping tabs on the community to understand kind of what the conversations are like?
First of all, I love your first couple of suggestions there. Those are spot on keyword searches and searching for those power users, especially if you've been over on X, for example, or if you've been, on LinkedIn, who shows up in your comment section, right? Who's having conversations that you want to be part of. So look for those people, the people who are leading the conversation in the industry that you're interested in, and look to see if they're there on Bluesky. Are they active on Bluesky? See if the conversation is following their lead, or are they talking to themselves? That happens too. And know that one spot check, even if you're checking a bunch of different people who are sort of leading the conversation, that won't be enough. You're
Sure.
going to need to take a look over time, because there'll be uptake and people will abandon the platform, like or not, but there'll be sort of inflection points along the way. And one other thing you might want to do is dive in and look around on Bluesky during big industry events. So last month, the JP Morgan Healthcare conference is a huge event for
Yep.
the biotech and pharma space. So I was spending some time on Bluesky around that event and looking for the hashtag and seeing who was using it and what was I couldn't get a sense really of the volume because their analytics aren't quite there yet, but just kind of looking anecdotally at who we're following from certain brand accounts, and are there people who are active and having that conversation. Once we get into the thick of medical meeting season within the verticals I support, I'll absolutely be looking at at those hashtags and seeing. I don't expect it to be everything moves directly from X over to Bluesky immediately. I don't expect any sort of, well, okay, everybody's gone and here they're over here now. But I think that we'll probably see at least some people migrate, and some people will use both. So then you've got to sort of look at the volume and the
Yep.
quality of the conversation and all of those elements that can help you direct your effort and make sure that you're in the place where your conversation is happening.
And I think those are such good points, because I know when I initially joined Bluesky, I don't it was more than a year ago. I didn't really find my people or my conversations early on. So I
Mhm.
think I maybe posted once and then went away for a very long time.
Yeah, and a
And it
lot
was
of people have done the same, and it's a matter of finding that moment, and I think big industry events and conferences might be sort of that tipping point where we get enough people paying attention at the same time to have some of those conversations and kind of get that wheel turning. I know for me on the personal side, I've got posts, way back from early in my time on Bluesky going, "Hey, is anybody any NFL fans here? Any NHL fans here?" And like it was just crickets and going, "Okay, anybody working in social media, content, that kind of thing." And I wasn't really finding it. And
Yeah.
what really kind of got me back on there in a meaningful way is when the start of this football season that's going to end on Sunday. Um, I finally found kind of a group of people who are following my football team. I'm a Washington Commanders fan. Back home, I grew up in Maryland, so I come by those team affiliations honest. And I finally found a group of people who were consistently posting about the games, watching the games, and generally when it comes to the Commanders, commiserating. But we had a better season this year, so it might be connected to Bluesky, probably not.
I got to tell you, that's one of the things I do miss because back in the day on Twitter, during San Francisco Giants games, the SF Giants, also hashtag torture, which is an
Yeah.
insider joke for Giants fans from way back when. We would be, talking smack and sharing, gifts. And it was just such a fun thing to do to have that group experience when you don't necessarily, you don't want to go to a bar with a bunch of rowdy people to watch the game, but feeling like you're having, that game experience, game day experience is really fun. And I think that's something a lot of us missed.
Absolutely. And it's something that I don't want to I go to the gym after work. I'm not going to go to a bar and watch the game after that. It's for everybody's good that I just come home and get cleaned up and get in my pajamas and sit on the couch. So but then I can, enjoy the game and, and have those exchanges with other fans. And it's 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 great for that really time sensitive content, that in the moment content. And that's something that really Threads hasn't been able to crack as
Mhm.
far as like real time. They have a really good algorithm. Like Threads can serve up, the cat pictures that I want to see. Solid, absolutely will hit me 10 out of 10 times. But it's also going to give me, people who were posting about the Capitals game 2 nights ago. And I'm like, okay, but that's great, but I'm not as interested as the game that's tonight.
Yeah.
So those sorts of things, it hasn't quite hit the that need for those real time events. And not everybody has a use case for real time interaction like that, but sporting events are kind of unique in that way. Not, I wouldn't say maybe unique's the wrong word, but there are other cases where real time is important. But um, if that's not something that you're interested in, it's less essential for that to be a piece of the puzzle.
Well, I do really feel like for the last 2 years, marketers in particular have been feeling a void from how
Mhm.
we used to be able to have those event hashtags, and you
Yeah.
used to be able to have that real-time back channel happening during your events, and people would use it to, give you feedback as the person putting on the event, but also to find other like-minded people. And once
Yeah.
they started making the changes over at X to the way that hashtags worked, and now there's a
Mhm.
very strong anti-hashtag sentiment on that platform, which kind of got echoed by the Meta platforms, which now won't let you follow your hashtags that you've been following for over a decade on Instagram. But
Mhm.
so there's been kind of, taking away that ability for the user to have the control and the ability to find that other user tagged content in a way that really facilitates conversation. We actually, this started as a Twitter chat, 15 years ago. And a big part of why we moved over to LinkedIn is we had situations where we would have guests who couldn't see all of the chat posts. We would have
Mhm.
people be missing real-time engagement because that account had been, you know, deprioritized, or the hashtag got throttled because we were having too much interaction without being blue check marked. So we ended
Mhm.
up in, the situation where we couldn't practically host a real-time conversation using the hashtag because people weren't able to see comments in real time. So I feel like that's a huge, amazing use case that Bluesky might be able to bring back those like live text-based chats and really become that back channel again for conferences, which whoo, I'm so excited to think about that.
I know that's, I mean, some of my favorite, memories from attending events, either in person or remotely, are some of that back channel back and forth and connecting to people who, are passionate about the things that I'm passionate about and are just going to continue that conversation beyond, a 3-day conference, for example. And they've brought, tremendous value to my life and taught me wonderful lessons over time. And I can't imagine, my career in social media without all of that input. And I think I would love to see that sort of engagement find a new home in a real time kind of space like Bluesky.
Because you can't do everything always through official channels. Like, obviously events always have apps, but by the time somebody sees your post in the app that, hey, you're going to go, like for me, content marketing world, when it was in Cleveland, I would always go thrifting and go to vintage shops because I knew where all of them were. It's like a fun hobby of mine. And I would end up meeting new people that I had never met before because I would post on Twitter, hey, I'm going to go thrifting. Who wants to come with me? And I would collect random people from the event and we go do that. It was so cool.
That's
And
amazing. I love that.
and I mean, you're just not going to do that from the app because they're not going to see it.
No, right. Yeah. You're not, it, the home base needs to be somewhere where you're going to be spending at least some of your attention. At a conference, yeah, okay, it's going to be split. You're going to be bouncing around and, attending a session and getting something to eat and talking to people in person. But when you dip in to that, to that feed of live information, those great moments can happen. There's that opportunity for it to pop up.
100%. Well, all this said, I think Bluesky has a lot of potential, but since we've also seen, I think Maven was the platform that very, very recently just, it didn't exactly completely shut down, but they're no longer developing on it and it's not going to be a focus. There's always the concern that when we flip over to these new channels, that we may be investing our time and energy and then have it go away. So, is it still worthwhile to be looking at a threads, for example? Like, how can we, what are some things we could think about, doing some of that toe dipping in threads as well? Like, how has that kind of evolved? Because since, frequently you did bring over that based from Instagram, which was used to a very different kind of content, visuals, videos, etc. I'm wondering if you have kind of any thoughts around how threads is, both similar to and different from X and from Bluesky.
Yeah, and what's interesting is I've experimented with one client on threads, kind of with that cross posting model. We're developing content for X, so that's similar to what most accounts are the ways that most accounts are using threads at this point. So we've done some cross posting. We haven't seen the uptake, the engagement, the followership follow, so we've kind of deprioritized it a little bit. But we wanted, it's one of those, because it's connected, it's in the Meta family, it has that little boost of staying power that I don't think it's going anywhere.
Yeah.
In the near term, at least. So I think that that's also worth experimenting with, and then seeing if your audience is there. I feel like a broken record, but and for my client, it was definitely, initially when threads launched, there were some key opinion leaders who were active on threads, less so more recently, but that can always pick back up. So having a feed that is clearly, owned and operated by that organization, even if it's not active, is or not very active. Maybe you're posting once a month or something, just to kind of keep something out there and keep testing the waters, see if things have changed at all in terms of who's there and who's active. That's not a bad idea. And Bluesky, it could be a flash in the pan. It could come and go. You know, with social media, I thought Twitter, you know, was going to be around forever.
Yep.
Twitter was my favorite platform, and I've mourned the loss over the last, you know, couple of years. It's been rough. But you know, these channels will change over time, and staying nimble enough to take advantage of the new ones, but not over invest
Yep.
in these platforms that we don't own. Of course,
Yep.
building on rented land and all of those
Jealousy.
yeah, exactly. But something actually that brings to mind that, as a communicator, one of the most important differences for me on Bluesky is that they don't penalize posts with links. So it's not, baked into their system to say, oh, there's a link, and especially a link that goes somewhere other than my platform,
Yep.
it's automatically getting, downgraded. So, some uh, journalists have come out and said, the Boston Globe has come out and said that their Bluesky traffic is 3 times what their Threads traffic is. And
Yeah.
the New York Times has come out and said, engagement is nuts. That's their word. It's nuts versus X. So that's really something that I'm excited about, because when I do have more clients who are active there, I'd really love to see, okay, is that traffic moving over to their website or to research that they're highlighting,
Yep.
or going to a medical meeting website to check out some of their sessions or something like that? I want to follow that web traffic, especially because it's not being throttled artificially.
Yep. That's such a good point, because I think that's something that folks, there are workarounds on LinkedIn, for example. We've all seen the link in comments, which
Yep.
makes users of the platform annoyed, but is the way that you keep from being dinged by the algorithm so that your post turns up in their feed in the first place.
Mhm.
But, definitely on X, if you were, if you had links, it just wasn't going anywhere. And then it started to be that also if you have hashtags, then things would get sometimes downgraded too. But I'm wondering, for your clients that do still have an audience there, because of course there, has still been, especially in some of the nonprofit and government related sectors, there had still been a lot of usage of
Mhm.
the X platform. I'm wondering if you can kind of share, what X is like now as a platform, as far as like what kind of content you are able to really still get in front of people, and how you kind of seen it evolve for the clients that still have found it to be a valuable place to be.
Yeah, I've really got I think I've got 2 clients that are still active on X, and, you know, I'd say follower growth is way down, just anecdotally over the past, 6, 8 months in particular. I would say that, the number of impressions per post is down, engagements per post is down. Not 0, not,
Right.
not worth it, because the conversations that we wanna be involved in are still happening there, to at least some extent. Some of it has shifted, but, we've talked about that already.
Yep.
So it's still worthwhile for them, and they're still getting engagement when they post. We have adopted using a little bit more, animation on some of the posts to try to like get a point across, a little bit of the extra real estate,
Yep.
to and something that'll move to try and get you to stop long enough to consume it. um, but that's been kind of cross platform. I think, that's always add a little razzle dazzle to the content that can be good for you. We've stuck with including links for the most part, mainly because we really do want people to take this little nugget of information, and if they're interested, go look at some more
Yep.
information on their website, for example. And that's been a primary goal. So we haven't really strayed from that too much. Um, whether that's, I mean, we're just kind of accepting that, um, we're going to reach fewer followers, fewer members of our audience, because we're including a link, but sort of the cost benefit analysis is coming out in favor of the link for us
Yep.
right now.
It is interesting because I've had some clients that Twitter had been a really significant traffic driver,
Hmm.
especially, membership associations that would use the channels to talk about educational opportunities. So webinars, courses, etc. They would get an extraordinary amount of traffic because they'd get reshared by partner organizations and by other, thought leaders who were involved with the content. But it was really interesting to see with the client, my last client that was still on the X platform, that most recently X actually sent less traffic to their website than ChatGPT.
Wow.
And that for
That's
me,
stark. Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's kind of interesting, right? Because I think that's one of the things people don't think about either is a lot of the content on X that we used to be able to just see, you now have to be logged in to see. So you
Yes.
can't necessarily see a post that somebody
Hmm.
shares a link. And I actually haven't figured out the how it is that you're able to see something or not. Because for a while I thought that it was just if you were not logged in to a to an X account, that you wouldn't be able to see things. But sometimes things do seem to be able to be visible. So I don't know if it has to do with if it's a blue check mark account posting it
Hmm.
or what have you. But I think that's one of the things that's really affecting traffic because search is now not picking up, the things shared on X. Uh,
Hmm. Right.
and then like your feed readers, you can't set up like Feedly used to have the ability that you could have your custom searches for specific keywords and things, hashtags in Twitter, and it would port it in for you. So then you could actually do social listening and all the different
Hmm.
social listening tools. So I think that's, something too that'll be interesting to see, how when Bluesky evolves, how they decide to navigate that because that push and pull between do you keep things private so that only users can see them or do you let things actually be discoverable to broaden the conversation?
Right. If I had to, this is a guess. I don't have any inside contact with anybody at Bluesky, but just because they're built on the AT protocol, I feel like they're going to lean toward the more open and allowing people who aren't logged in to see things. But again, that may be wishful thinking too. But I feel like from what I've seen so far from the team, it's a possibility for that to actually come to fruition.
I hope
I
so
know they're
because
working on post analytics at this point, so I'm really anxious to see that come together because I'd love to be able to, kind of just quantify some basic information, especially for clients. I'm less, uh, concerned with that on the personal side, obviously, but to be able to really paint a picture for clients and tell them, how many people they've reached with this particular post and
yeah,
how many clicked on it and even like just that basic data will
yeah.
be a big step forward for them.
At least for now, we can use UTM's
Right.
and get that passed through when we're going to owned content. But it is nice, especially if you're amplifying partner content or other places where you're not going to be able to see on the back end that people were actually engaging with it that way. It will be nice to actually have that bigger context for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That full picture is important, but you're right. UTMs are just invaluable, especially for a new platform like this.
Scary name, but so helpful.
Absolutely. Yes. Nobody be afraid of UTMs. It's all going to be all right.
So, thinking about your experiences on the platform over, let's say, like the past 6 months in particular, like who are some of the people on the platform or organizations for that matter that like are in your like top 5 list of accounts that you feel like everyone should follow, or at least everybody who's a marketer should follow? Like, what's been fun and interesting? Because, like, I'll say bookshop.org, they're like kind
Yes.
of
Oh,
the
they're great.
breakout Bluesky account for me.
Right. Absolutely. That and um, Beyond Meat, their little cow in a cape is absolutely it's is it Beyond Meat? Is that their handle? I'm getting it wrong. Um, but it's the plant-based meat substitute. They have a wonderful account, and whoever is running it is brilliant. Um, and let me think, other people. I know Jay Akunzo is on there and pretty active, and he's a, a great mind in the content space. I know that we had actually talked about putting together a list of, of folks from this chat session, or I know you said you have, or are creating a starter pack for content chat guests.
Yep.
So that's a great place to go.
And my
I
friend Bonnie
I'm
Burton, who's an amazing creator, I just flashed her up here on the screen.
Yes, I
Bonnie
heard.
always curates the best content, and she is on Bluesky, and I
Oh,
definitely always get a smile whenever I see what she's been posting.
wonderful. Then, and it's just, going on and searching for, I mean, I'm big into, I love pet photos. I love any, like, so We Rate Dogs is another account that I follow just about everywhere I am. And I go and I like their stuff everywhere I see it. So that's sort of a gimme. But you can make it what you want it to be. If you have an idea of what you want to get out of it, you can find it. And then look for, the people who are following that sort of central hub account, and then, take a look at what they're posting about. And if you like what you see, follow them, and on down the line. It can be a fun journey if you're, in the right headspace for it and willing to put in, a little bit of the effort.
Well, I mean, to that end, I'd say for content marketers, start with Anne Hanley's account, because
Oh
Anne
my
has
goodness, how
been
could I
pretty
forget Anne?
right. Anne's been really active, and Anne follows all sorts of fun people and is always amplifying great content. And I think it's a good reminder that, that's what these social channels are for. They're for engaging with each other and sharing other people's content too. It's not just all about you. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Bonnie just shared her. I'm going to post this up here because Bonnie is amazing. I've known Bonnie forever, since back when she was the StarWars.com webmaster. Right, we're talking
Oh,
way back here, and Bonnie has always the best content there. And what's nice is we can actually find people easily
yeah.
on there. There aren't a bunch of spam imitation accounts, which is
Right.
a delight.
Yes. Yes. There's plenty of bot traffic. There's definitely, it's got all the problems that every social media platform has. But you
But I
just got
see
to kind
far
of,
fewer AI generated images of French
yeah.
bulldogs with extra feet. On
Okay, that's fair.
Bluesky.
Yes. Yeah. I
That's always
just
the
don't want
most
anybody hopping
interesting.
on thinking it's going to be a bot-free zone. There are definitely some,
Yeah.
and you'll get some people following you who you're very suspicious about, whether they're a genuine person. But
But you're able to block them, and then
absolutely, you
and
can
then
take
you
care of it. It
it
doesn't
takes
give
care
your
of it.
yeah, yeah.
And I do think that's one of the things that is absolutely critical. And
Mhm.
any platform that forces you to, um, follow people, or doesn't give you a way to deal with someone, having a spam account or harassing you, you don't want to be on those platforms. So I do think that that is, one of those central, very important things that Blue Sky also is supportive of, because you want to create a safe space and where people can, curate the kind of content that they want to see and say, hey, I don't want whatever it is in my feed. Like, you know what?
Mhm.
I have a smooshy faced dog. I have two smooshy faced dogs. So if you don't like, the squishy face crew, I don't want to hear from you about it. I mean, I've had people tell me I'm a horrible human being because I have, the little smooshy face dog, and
Uh,
I, I'm like,
That's
wow, thanks a lot.
categorically incorrect. Yes. No. Right. So you need to be able to just, yeah, toss that out of your stream. You don't need to deal with that in your life. That kind of negativity, no room for it. So, and that's one thing that I really do like, that, if there's a reply on on your post, for example, you've posted a squishy faced dog, and somebody has commented with something ridiculous, like you were saying, you can just hide it for everyone. So nobody can see it, not just hide it for you. So it really does, it protects all of your followers or people who are looking at your feed. from seeing that kind of content too. So
Which is
that's
just
a nice,
amazing, right?
yeah.
Because it's
Right.
like
And
if
I
you're
mean,
having a party and somebody was being rude to you and your guests, you'd throw them out. And,
absolutely.
it's nice to be able to do that on social too, to be like, get out.
Right. And then you don't have to spend any bandwidth, any thought, worrying about them. And, if you can take another step, you can block them if you need to. If it becomes a thing where they keep coming to your house and coming to your party, you don't have to live with it. It's okay. And again, you can, eradicate that content for your followers as well. So
I
that comes
think
in
that
handy.
I
I'm
mean,
I'm
and
sorry that it's needed sometimes.
isn't that like one of the biggest concerns so many organizations have about being on social is about, but what do you do with haters? And what do you do if you have somebody who's relentless? We've all been in that situation where there's been somebody who just has an issue that they can't let go. Like,
Hmm.
Bosch having his feeling that he can't let go.
Right.
At a certain point you can't keep feeding that energy, and you try to help people, you try to resolve an issue, but you do sometimes end up in a situation where you have somebody who's just relentlessly posting something that's not true, or just trying to like stir the pot. It is nice
Right.
to be able to have a way to deal with it that isn't just having to have it in your face all the time, because
Right. Yeah.
that really gets old.
Just ignore, ignore, ignore. Yeah, and those egregious moments are, thankfully, in my experience, few and far between. But I also don't work for like an airline or somebody who's going to deal
Right.
with a lot of, really disgruntled people who don't have anything better to do for an extended period of time. Uh, but thank goodness. But you're right. Like there's you always have to, if you're on the receiving end of that kind of comment, a negative comment, you never want to just, hide it for everyone, delete it, whatever, out of like on the first engagement. We always want to at least try to solve
Yeah.
the problem. But there are people who you will never make happy no matter what you do. And even if you do solve the problem on the back end, maybe they keep coming back
Yeah.
and continue to complain and pretend like it hasn't been addressed. And I've had that happen many times. And that's I mean, or they escalate things. They
Yeah.
start. I've had instances where they've made threats against the business or things like
Well,
that.
you
It
should
gets
absolutely not have to keep that up
no,
on
no,
your page.
right,
Like, that should
and
not
you
be
don't.
a thing.
Any threat doesn't have any right to live on your social media platform. But you can just get rid of it, and of course you can block them, all those kinds of things. And it's but you can take care of it. And I really like that Blue Skies made that a priority so early on for them to make sure that those features were in place.
I mean, to me, that's how you create that kind of inclusive community where people
Yeah.
will feel free to engage, because if they feel like they have control over their own feed and they have the ability to address for themselves when things get out of hand, that's what you need to have a community. If you
Mhm.
feel like you're going to be forced to argue with people all day long, I don't know about you, but that's not fun for me. I'm not looking
No.
for that. I don't need more arguing in my
Mhm.
life.
Right.
So,
Yeah. I don't want to throw down. I want to celebrate Alexander Ovechkin goals. So we're gonna be all right, you know? But it's
well, we're almost at the top of the hour. So, share with
Mhm.
me if you had any other kind of like quick tips for people who are blue sky curious, and what should they go and do today? Like after this, watching this conversation with the two of us, what should they go do to kind of get a feel for what's happening there?
I would say set up your account. It's super easy. If you've ever established any other account anywhere else on social media, you'll be fine. It's a few clicks. You don't have to choose a server like Mastodon. Don't be afraid, anything like that. You can get set up in just a few minutes. And then, start looking for some of the people who you've followed on other platforms. Plug in some names, plug in hashtag content chat, plug in Erica, start there, start from what you know, and then give yourself some room to explore a little bit. Look at who Erica is following. Look at if you have another, look at who Ann Handley is following, for example. And then build your own ideal platform, your ideal follower base, the people you want to hear from, and then try not to close the app and never go back again. Maybe put a post out there. It's okay if you don't
Or
want
at
to,
least
that's all
go out
right.
and be brave and go and comment on someone's post. Tell them that you think the photo they posted is awesome or that you agree with them. Like,
Goodness.
just, act like you're at that party and you're just coming over and being like, "Hey, those are great shoes." And then you can run
It's so
away,
much easier than being at a party in person and having to like sidle up and make a comment because you can just fly by. And
Right.
you know what? If they don't respond, it's okay. But they very likely will though, saying something nice to somebody is often a good way to start a conversation. So, give it a shot and then and see what happens for you and see if your people are there.
Totally. So, Amanda, if people want to continue the conversation with you, first of all, who are you on Blue Sky?
I'm Amanda Changuris. I'm a very creative handle developer. So you can follow me. If you follow me, you're gonna get sports stuff too. So I'm delighted to have you, but I feel like every time I've spoken at Content Marketing World, I've had to warn people too. that,
A friendly
you know,
disclaimer is good. I like that.
right. Yeah. I try not to be too crazy about it, but you're gonna get some hockey tweets and you're gonna get some football posts now and then. So, it comes with other good stuff. You'll also get pictures of my cat, so you're
Excellent.
welcome in advance. Yeah.
Excellent. I really appreciate cats on the internet. That is one of my primary drivers for continuing to be on the internet every single day.
Yes, absolutely. 100% agree.
And where can they find you talking about marketing, including things like how you're using Blue Sky?
More of that on LinkedIn, I think, that than maybe on Blue Sky at this point, but I should probably ramp it up over there. Take some of my own medicine.
Because I know I found out that you were on Blue Sky because of LinkedIn. And I was
Mhm.
like, wait, you're there? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Sometimes you got to put the puzzle together, It's okay. We get the complete picture eventually.
And definitely for those of you watching, I am going to work with Amanda on putting together a starter kit for content and marketing because I think, as more people are joining, it's just kind of nice to have a hey, here's who to go follow who's actually using it and having fun because, that's the whole point. We want to be on socials to get new ideas, meet new people, and just, enjoy this work that we do because that's kind of the whole point. If you're not enjoying it, you shouldn't be doing it. So let's have some fun. Let's bring the social back to social media. And I feel like Blue Sky is where we can probably do that the easiest these days.
Yeah. Yeah, that and I love using it as a sounding board. Is anybody else having this problem? This is happening for me and I can't figure it out. That's another great use case and we know we have the community. We just need to get them all in one spot.
And what's nice about using Blue Sky for that is then people aren't spamming you with invitations to sell you something because you asked that
Yeah.
question. It's just
Mhm.
that you have a conversation instead. And I miss that.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for being our guest, Amanda. And for
Of
everyone
course.
else, thank you for being part of our conversation today. And we'll be back same time, same channels next week. Bye, everybody.